Very often when people pass away, they ask a question: where does the soul go? That's a good question. But the truth is, we could ask a different question. When a person is alive, where is the soul? So you answer, the soul's inside of me. And where exactly inside of you? So in this chapter, the Alter Rebbe starts to explore different locations of the two different souls. So in previous chapters, the Alter Rebbe has already introduced to us the two souls within us. There's the godly soul, the part that is a piece of God and makes us connect with God and live a holy, intentional, purposeful life. And the second soul, referred to as the soul of physiological vitality, the animal soul, which makes us into just physical human beings pursuing our own needs for pleasure, for bestial, selfish reasons. And we understand that each soul is its own complete human structure. It has its 10 faculties of mind and of heart, and the way each soul clothes itself within the 3 garments of mind and thought and behavior, and how each soul has its desires, its agenda, and the way it manifests throughout our lifestyle, throughout our behavior. Now that we understand the nature and the role of these two souls, now the Alter Rebbe starts to explain the tension, the battle of these two souls within us, which is the struggle that we go through all the time. It's these two voices, but not just two voices, it's two complete souls within us trying to influence our lifestyle. So the Alter Rebbe says, the primary residence of the animal soul, the soul of our human physiological existence and needs, is in the heart. And more specifically, in the left side of the heart, the left atriums and ventricles of the heart. Because the metaphor is very interesting. Anatomically, we know that it's the left side of the heart that is filled with blood, as the Alter Rebbe says, but it's filled with oxygenated blood which has already become oxygenated from going through the lungs, and it's a larger portion of the heart, and it gives the heart the ability to pump out that blood of life throughout the rest of the body. And so, as scripture says, Ki Adam hu nefesh, the blood is the soul, which that means the blood is the seat of the human soul, because the role of blood is just to flow throughout our entire body to every single organ of our body and give it its human life. And this is the soul which is giving us human life to pursue our own human needs for our own goals and agendas of personal pleasure. So therefore, that's the seat, the residence of this animal soul. And from there, just like the blood, the influence and the desires of the animal soul spread throughout our entire body into all our organs, trying to influence them, asking of them to behave in a way that the animal soul wants to behave. And of course, it flows to the mind, just like the blood flows to the mind. And when it goes to the mind, it's sort of turning to the mind and requesting for the mind to justify it, to rationalize it, give it some kind of intellectual flavor to explain all of the heart's lusts and desires. Now, that is the way the animal soul operates. The primary residence of the godly soul is very different. That is in the mind, because the mind is the place of objectivity. The mind is the place which can be discerning, which can truly understand right from wrong. And that is the nature of the godly soul, where it exists in the mind, and it's there where it pursues truth. And from there, just like the mind influences the rest of the body, so too the mind, the godly soul within the mind, spreads out from the mind to the rest of the body, influencing the person and the body to behave in accordance with what its agenda, its purpose is. And more specifically, it actually flows to the heart as well. The heart is another residence, not the primary residence, but another residence of the godly soul, and more specifically, the right side of the heart. Here, the Alter Rebbe says the right side has no blood, which means the blood in the right ventricles and atriums of the heart are not deoxygenated, so it doesn't have that full intensity of the blood yet, which is going to give life force to the rest of the body. And metaphorically, that represents the space within the heart that is not inspired or motivated purely by physiological human needs, but rather a result of the mind's thoughts and the mind's discoveries of truth and that which is real. Which is why King Solomon in Ecclesiastes says, he calls the animal soul or the heart, he says, is like an old fool, whereas the chacham, lev chacham liyamino, the heart of the wise person is in the right side, which is this really explains the idea here that the animal soul is called a fool meaning the modus operandi of the fool is that life is about pain and pleasure. What makes things right or wrong is whether it's good for me, pleasurable to me, or not. And that's the animal soul. And the mind thinks differently. The mind wants to discern what's right and what's wrong, irrespective of what's more painful or more pleasurable. And therefore, the heart of the wise person is in the right side being the seat of the godly soul as it spreads out of the mind. And there, it's Lev Chacham, it's the heart of the wise man. And what does the wise man want to do? The wise man wants to think and explore intellectually, objectively, into what is truly meaningful in life, what is truly right and what is wrong, and what is purposeful and what is beneficial and what is healthy in life. And through this honest intellectual pursuit of getting it right, that inspires the heart with healthy, holy emotions such as getting excited in a loving way, as the Tanya says, in a fiery love towards God, towards truthful things, towards purpose in life, towards discovering why we are here and how we accomplish every moment in our life in a productive way and in a beneficial way. And similarly, all the other emotions, gladness of the heart, being content, being happy, and the other emotions that are, of course, come along with that, they're all the healthy emotions that are triggered by and given birth to by the healthy, honest exploration of the mind of the godly soul. Which is why King Solomon also has an interesting expression. He says, Einei chacham berosho. Where is the eyes of the wise person? In the head. Now, eyes are in the face of all people, whether you're wise or you're foolish. But the eye, besides the physical organ of the eye, there's a metaphor to the eye over here. The seeing eye. The eye is the way that we interact with, and we get to know, and we get to perceive and understand everything around us. So not just what we're seeing physically, but what we're seeing in the way we're processing the world around us. Where are your eyes? The eyes of the fool are in the heart. The eyes of the wise person are in the mind. That's the difference of the two different relationships of mind, heart, or heart and mind. Meaning, in anything in life, when you see something, when you feel something, when you hear something, when you discover something, how do you respond? The animal soul, the foolish soul, responds by an instinctual, immediate, impulsive trigger of the heart. How does this make me feel? And that immediate, instinctual trigger of the heart is normally going to be an unhealthy connection and reaction to that which you're seeing and perceiving. Because it's not about right versus wrong, it's about how you feel, and how you feel is not a good yardstick for what's right and wrong. So that's the nature of the animal soul. The animal soul always reacts immediately with how it feels. And then, of course, as we learned, it turns to the mind to sort of justify its behavior, justify its foolish feelings, because it is a human being after all. But everything begins in the heart and then turns to the mind. Whereas the godly soul operates differently. Everything is processed first and foremost through the mind, which means with patience, with objectivity, with honesty, to truly understand what is at play, what is at stake over here, what's right and what's wrong. And from there to influence the heart of how I should feel and influence the rest of the organs of the body, how they should behave. So there's two very different paradigms going on over here between these two souls. So something for us to think about at this point, and this is the conclusion of today's chapter, is what is our instinctual reaction to anything going on around us? And where is our primary original place of processing our world and our lives? Is it in the mind or is it in the heart? Is it controlled by emotions of the heart? or is it controlled, regulated, and directed by the wisdom of the mind? And if it's in the heart, it often will come from the foolish animal soul. That's where the heart's eye is. Versus if it's in the mind's eye is probably going to be something that is holy, that is correct. So, whenever something happens, a good tip is, instead of immediately just reacting and responding, breathe for a moment. Breathe, and then allow yourself to think. And even though it's going to be difficult or painful, because right away your heart's going to be rushing to come to conclusions, hold on a minute. We need to really evaluate what's right and what's wrong, what's real, what's not real, what's important, what's not important. That's the operations of the mind, and allow the mind to regulate and influence your heart and the way you feel. And that's the conclusion of today's class about the difference of location and of the systems of the animal soul and the godly soul.